Hi, my name is Greg Suchy, and I came across the three principles a little over 2 years ago. And at the time, I was really kind of struggling in my recovery. I'd been in AA for uh, about 3 years at that point, and just hadn't found the peace of mind. Being sober that long, and I'm looking around at other people in the fellowship and kind of seeing the same thing with a lot of them. And feeling that need to go to a meeting every day and not necessarily getting much out of them because a lot of the topics are the same over and over again. And I still wasn't happy. I still didn't really have a clue how to deal with life and just the racing thoughts that were always going through my mind and feeling less than everybody else. And, all this just negative stuff going through my head. When I came across the three principles, it just completely changed my entire outlook on life and recovery. And I stopped seeing myself as a sick person. I was just somebody who felt the way that I didn't like to feel and did something to try to make me feel better. I spent the first 30 some years of my life being angry. I hated my boss. I eventually started disliking what I was doing. I had to struggle just to get up in the morning to get myself ready to go to work. I started being late every day, and I would wake up with just all these stories going on in my head about how the day is going to go and what my boss is going to say, and what kind of task I'm going to have to do that's really something I don't want to do. And then it changed to this place of realizing that what I'm doing there, I do maintenance on apartment buildings, and what I'm doing there is helping people. So now I go in there with this idea of I'm going to go help people today. That people are having problems with something, and I'm here with a solution. And I actually am starting to enjoy going to work. And since I stopped going in with that attitude, my boss stopped giving me an attitude back. After coming across the principles, everything just became much easier. My circumstances didn't change, but how I viewed them changed. Suddenly I was able to go through the same things that I'd gone through in the past, but with this feeling of peace and serenity rather than anger and frustration. I mean, it's just made such a dramatic difference in my life. I wouldn't even, if I met myself from a few years ago, I wouldn't even recognize myself. It's such a wonderful thing to have something happen in life, no matter what the circumstance is, and to have this feeling of well-being. I came across the principles at a Unity church that I'd been going to for a little while. It's a very open-minded type of group of people, so I liked the congregation and all the different groups that they had there. And I noticed in the church bulletin one week that it just said "New meeting, three principles." It didn't really have a description or anything, but something really drew me to it. At that point, I was really seeking some kind of answer to those feelings that that I didn't know how to deal with. And at the time, my class schedule in college wouldn't let me go, so it was a couple of months of me missing these meetings, and finally I got to go, and I show up, and there's this guy Bob and this woman Marty, and they're talking to me about these three simple principles that explain how we experience life and how it can make life so much simpler and bring more joy into my life. And my brain was telling me, this guy's crazy. These people are just out of it. It can't be that simple. Where's the 12 steps? Where's the 101 main points? Where's there were no techniques. There was nothing to it like that. But something inside of me said, yes, there's something here. The second or third meeting that I went to was, I really don't remember what we talked about or what video we watched or whatever, but something sparked inside of me. Something really said, this is real. This is true. And I just really got into, I watched a ton of videos, I read books, I did everything I could, and it wasn't really helping that much because it was just an intellectual thing. I was still kind of in the mode of just learning. What I've come to experience since then is that this has nothing to do with learning. It has nothing to do with adding anything. It's something that's already there. We've just lost sight of it. And all these things doing these videos, the books, the speakers, everything are just pointing at that space inside of us. I think what happened for me, and maybe what happens for a lot of people when they finally get it, is I think for just a brief moment I let go of my story, the story of me. I think I just got distracted just long enough to kind of let that thinking just slow down and let that wisdom come through. We all have access to this great wisdom that never leads me wrong, ever. It's only my thinking about that wisdom that ever leads me wrong. And if you look at, like everybody's woke up from a nightmare, and you may be shaky or sweaty or something, and your body's reacting just like it was real. And it's the same thing when we're awake. Our bodies really don't know the difference as far as that stuff goes. They just respond to what our thoughts tell them. They really do. So when something happens, like in the past, maybe somebody would say something that sounded maybe a little bit negative toward me or something, and I would take it, 10 times that far. And then suddenly they were a horrible person and they hated me and all this stuff. And or you get in a car accident, and then, you just end up blowing up at the person because of course it was their fault. And now it's like, I actually got in my first at-fault car accident a couple of months ago, and I was just completely calm with it. It was really a different experience because I guess in the past I would have just come up with all these scenarios. They're going to have to total my car, and I'm going to have to find a new car, and all these different stories that come up, and it's all created by me. Everything. I'm creating my own experience. So I can choose how I experience the things that are happening around me. And I can choose to get angry about it or upset about it, or I can choose peace and joy. I still get caught up in my thinking. Definitely, but it doesn't last that long now. I catch myself faster, and it doesn't happen as often anymore. And it's very quickly followed up with love and compassion. I don't want to waste my time being angry. It takes so much energy. What's happened for me with that is that I just have this knowing, this deep knowing. It's nothing intellectual. I can't really put it into words, but there's this deep knowing that everything's already okay. That I don't need to do anything to make it okay. It's already okay. Even when I get off track and I get caught up in my thinking, I'll come back. It's a self-correcting system. It's self-healing. I know that in any given moment, I'm only ever doing the best that I can with whatever is going on at that time. And if that's true for me, it must be true for everyone else. Yeah. So how can I be angry with somebody who's just doing the best that they can? There's an innocence to it. Yeah, when you start going, oh, I shouldn't feel this way, I shouldn't be thinking this, I shouldn't be angry or whatever, you're actually adding more frustration to it, because now there's almost like guilt and shame involved in it. Because I shouldn't be doing this. That makes me a bad person because I should be happy all the time. It's just, and don't get me wrong, I am much happier than I've ever been in my entire life. But it doesn't have to always be that, like, turn the volume up to 10 thing. There's something to be said for contentment. And I really honestly, at this point, I find more happiness and contentment than I do in like great happiness and joy, because it's just fleeting.
Yeah.
But contentment is always there. That's like our home base. And to know that there's a place inside of me that is never harmed. It's never, there's never anything wrong. It just is. I just went through the absolute most difficult thing I've ever had to deal with my entire life. My wife left me about 7 weeks ago, unexpectedly. I mean, things were going great, and then she got sick for a few months. Ended up in the hospital. She couldn't walk. She kind of lost some of her ability to talk, and her vision wasn't very great. After a few months, she started getting better, and it seemed like we were growing closer through the experience, because I was taking care of her and we were spending a lot of quality time together. And the day that she got cleared from physical therapy and was given back her driving privileges, she left. And it completely caught me off guard and really honestly devastated me. And I spent a good 4, 5, 6 weeks just absolutely depressed, and at times even suicidal. Then I talked to Bill Pettit, and he very firmly pointed out that I was creating all of my own misery. And I got mad at him. I did. Like, there's no way I'm creating all of this for myself. I didn't get it then, but it apparently sank in. It apparently got to something inside of me. And it was about a week later. Actually, it was Easter Sunday. And I guess you could say I experienced the dark night of the soul. And I was done with life. I was done with everything. I was that far down in, I guess, my level of consciousness, or however you want to put it. I was ready to end it all. Okay. And I had a little conversation with God for the first time in a while, a genuine, heartfelt conversation where I just said, look, I need you to teach me how to be a happy human being, or I'm out of here. And it was the next day I woke up with this insight where I really saw how I was creating my own sorrow and issues. And I wasn't upset about her leaving. I was upset about my expectations of her not being met, because I'd had this story in my head, that story again, about how we were going to be together forever and, live happily ever after and all that stuff. And as soon as that changed and it didn't match my expectations, I brought on all of that pain and sorrow for myself. And ever since then, I haven't felt that. I mean, there's been, little pings of pain here and there, and of course I miss her and stuff, and I still love her and care about her. And I'm sure that's never going to change. And honestly, I don't want it to. Love is a beautiful thing. Even if we can't be together, I don't have to stop loving her. Honestly, it's probably been a couple of days since I've really even felt any kind of pain or sorrow. Just been in a great mood and accomplishing more stuff and have more energy, because I'm not wasting all that energy on creating feelings I don't want. So, I mean, it's really been an amazing learning experience. Before she left, I thought I had a great grasp on the principles, a good understanding, good feeling. But until you're really tested, you don't know. That's just one of those things in life. You can think you know something all you want. I can read the math book, but until I take the test, I don't really know how much I've learned. This was a really great test. And I've grown tremendously in the past 7 weeks. And I just feel nothing but compassion and love for her. And I really, truly hope that she's happy. I would not have lived through this without this understanding. And insights do happen in an instant. That's the nature of them. Some of them are really small. I like to call them popcorn insights. just a little one here and there. And maybe you don't notice them all at once, but eventually they all kind of come together like a bowl of popcorn. And now, now suddenly you notice that the world looks different. Don't know what changed. Really nothing has changed, but everything's different type of thing. It really is an instantaneous change, and it's not, because it's intellectual, it doesn't fade. I might lose sight of it sometimes when I get caught up in my thinking, but it's always there. As soon as I let things go, because to me, the key to this whole thing is not getting anywhere or doing anything. It's learning to let go. And as soon as I let go of those things, I return to that place of contentment. And Joe Bailey talked about it in his book, The Serenity Principle. Not kind of paraphrasing, but he said that serenity is our natural state of being when we stop doing the things that take us away from it. My experience, it's absolutely true. When I'm caught up in my thinking, it doesn't look true. It's like, that's what's real. It's like you go to see a movie, and if it's well done, you get caught up in the story, and it'll get your heart racing, or you might cry or get scared or something. But as soon as the movie's over, all that stuff is gone, and you're just left with the memory of that experience, and you return to real life. I mean, it's the same thing when we're walking around. What we're really seeing is a projection of our thoughts. It's a projection of our, you could call it mental conditioning, the things we were taught growing up. When we're a kid, we don't worry about tomorrow. We don't think about next year. We don't even think about Christmas until it starts getting close to Christmas. You know what I mean? It's just that type of thing. We just go with the flow and live in the moment. And that's really what life has become for me again. It's like I'm a little kid again. I'm still working there. I still go there every day, and I'm enjoying it kind of like when I first started. Because when you first start a job, you almost kind of enjoy it more. Everything's new and fresh and whatever. And then after a little while, you get to know your coworkers, and maybe you don't like half of them, and some of them don't like you. And you start to build that story again. And it's like the story is just totally dropped away. That doesn't change the circumstances of it. I kind of need to make a little bit more money to be able to get by now that I'm on my own. So I'm going to have to still make a change. But that doesn't mean I have to dislike the job that I'm at. I'd let that story grow and grow and grow until I just couldn't stand going to work, and then I'd find something else and quit. And then there's no possibility going back to it. It's not a good reference now. It's not, I burned so many bridges in the past. There were places I had to leave off my resume because I didn't want anybody contacting me. I didn't want them to find out just how horribly I'd acted at that job. And every single time, it might take a year or 2 or 3 to realize how good I actually had it at that job. Once that story kind of dropped away, and I'm building a coaching practice now. I want to be a recovery coach and help people with addictions. This has completely changed my recovery from a place of, struggling every day, the whole just don't do it today type of mentality, to it just not being an issue. It just isn't a problem anymore. It's just because I used the drugs and the alcohol and the food and all that stuff as a way to try to escape those feelings, to slow down my thinking. It's such an overactive mind, and if I took a few drinks or did some drugs, or maybe overate and, got that carbohydrate buzz or that sugar high or whatever, at least for a short moment in time, my thinking would slow down. But it didn't accomplish what I needed because it had all the negative side effects with it. There's the hangover, there's the cravings and all that stuff. So it didn't let me access that wisdom. this understanding is way more effective than any drink or drug that I ever use, any combination of stuff. So I tried my own recipes of maybe if I do this and with this, maybe then I'll accomplish it. There isn't a drug or a drink or a food or sex or gambling or cigarettes or anything out there that can accomplish what this understanding has done for me. And the people I've been working with, just watching their lives change before my eyes. It's amazing. You see them, I start talking, they got that like worried look on their face. And then at some point they hear something and their face just relaxes and their shoulders drop. And they're kind of staring off into space somewhere. And they got something. Yeah. And it's so beautiful to watch somebody change their entire life in an instant. To go from being a worried person and always anxious and frustrated to just being calm and happy and not feel like they need to use anymore to feel good. In my experience last August, I think it was, I decided to try having a drink again. After over 4 years of not drinking or doing anything. And I had a drink with dinner. I was out with some people and they're like, oh, they didn't know I was in recovery. And they said, oh, you just have to try this wine with that dish. It's such a perfect pairing. And I said, okay. And I had a glass of wine with dinner. Nothing happened. I just enjoyed a glass of wine with dinner. And a few weeks later, I decided to try getting drunk. Just wanted to, see, because the one glass was okay. So I was like, maybe I'll just try. And what happened was after 2.5 years, I put it down and didn't like the way I was feeling. Because before, when I was drinking and drugging, I felt so low that it actually helped bring me up. It does help a little bit when you're in a really low state of mind. But what changed was I wasn't in that low state of mind anymore. I'd gone much higher than that. So the feeling of being buzzed was actually a lower feeling. It's such an amazing thing. It's not even an issue. There's no desire to escape all of this stuff. Now, that's not to say that during that month or so that I was stuck in my head after she left, I did go out and get drunk. Because at that point in time, I was in such a low state of mind that it actually brought me up just a little bit. But the last night that I drank, about a little over 3 weeks ago, I just had a different feeling to it. My level of consciousness or state of mind, whatever you want to call it, had started rising. And it had gotten to a point where it was higher than what I felt when I was drinking. And I didn't finish out the night. I didn't close down the bar that night. And I just went home and went to sleep and woke up the next day with no more desire to go drink. And the crazy part about this time being caught up in the drinking, and it was almost every night, was that the entire time I knew that it was temporary. I knew that as long as I kept moving forward and but just allowing myself to experience what I was experiencing without fighting it, just letting it flow, that eventually it would be over. And it was. One big thing I talk to people about when I'm working with people who are struggling with addictions is don't be hard on yourself when you slip back. It doesn't mean anything except that you've fallen back into a lower state of mind. That's it. And you didn't have to do anything to make that happen. And you don't have to do anything to make it go away. It will go away on its own. But if you add like we were talking about earlier, if you add, well, I shouldn't be doing this. This is wrong. I'm a terrible person. Oh, now I have to restart my sobriety date. And you add all that guilt and shame to it. Guess what? it's just going to keep you in that lower state of mind. Guilt and shame are not positive energy. They are not. That's pretty low energy. So the key to getting out of lower energy is to let it go. It'll come and it'll go. You'll get caught up in thinking, and then you won't be. You'll have a great experience, and you'll have this massive amount of joy. And then you'll come back to that place of contentment. It's a wonderful thing. It really is. Life is beautiful. If you would have met me a few years ago, there's no way I'd say that. Life is horrible. People are terrible. You know, this world is just beyond repair. But you know what? There's nothing wrong with the world. There's nothing ever wrong with us. There's nothing ever broken. There's nothing missing. There's just stuff covering it up. And I love that metaphor of the clouds in the sky. You know, even when the sky is all cloudy and stormy, the sun is still there, and the sky is unaffected by those clouds. They come and they go. Down here in Ohio, we get a lot of clouds. They come and they go. And when they're gone, the sky is blue again and the sun's shining. But it was always there. It's just covered up. So that's what I mean by there's nothing to get to, there's nothing to do. It's just letting things flow, going with the flow of life. Right now I have 8 people that I'm working with individually, and then we do groups around here. Well, it's 4 times a month. It's the first and third Thursday night and the second and fourth Wednesday afternoon. And I don't always get to the Wednesday one because of work, but you know, so we have people that show up to those groups, and I share this as much as I can because it's changed my life, and I've watched it change other people's lives dramatically. And it's something that's so simple that it's easy to overlook. So used to all these really thick self-help books. You need a 1,000-page book to figure out how to be happy, you know. And it's amazing to read Sid's books, and they're all fairly short, but really powerful, really impactful. And I go back to those often because that's the pure message. It's that simple, that innocent, you know. And since then, I've really gained a strong passion for sharing the principles, especially with people in addiction, because I know where they've been, and I know where they can be. And life can be wonderful. It really can, regardless of circumstances. It can be just absolutely amazing. And every day, I just keep enjoying it more and more. Started a few months ago. I started working with Harry Durbitsky, who's actually a friend of Sid's. He'd gotten a hold of me because he saw me on a webinar, and we just connected right away. We ended up talking for a few hours the first time. So we started a Sunday webinar for, you know, it's called Addiction and the 3 Principles. And we cover all of the different topics that come up for people struggling with addictions. And the format's a little different than a typical webinar because it really is just a conversation. It's not, you know, they talk for 40 minutes and then answer questions. It's a back and forth, which is a much better format because when you have a conversation, it's much easier for the wisdom to sneak in and pop something into your head that you haven't thought of before. So people have questions and comments and insights and stuff that they share on there that they wouldn't have just sitting there listening to a speaker for 40 minutes. The feedback that we're getting is amazing. We get, I think, close to 2,500 watches on the YouTube channel, and we average, 20 plus people a week. We have a Facebook group called Addiction, Alcoholism, and the 3 Principles. The links on there, all the events, and the YouTube channel is called Hope for Addiction, using the 3 Principles. And please feel free to share. It's not that's another thing, is it's not just like a closed group for people who are struggling with addiction. It's for anybody. Just the thought that there's a possibility that some clip out of this might reach even one person. I don't know. It just, even my past has changed. Believe it or not, our past can change when our perception changes. For the longest time, I actually thought I had the bad childhood. I looked at all the things I didn't have and the things I didn't get to do. And I missed all of the stuff that my parents did for us. There were 6 kids and my mom's mom living with us. And somehow they made everything work. They made ends meet. They literally worked themselves to the point of destroying their bodies because they worked that hard to give us the things that we got. And now I can look back and really appreciate my parents and feel a lot more love for them. It's such an amazing thing to have your past change, not even just my present, but my past. And I don't spend too much time wondering about the future, but I just know that it's going to be just phenomenal. I just feel it. There's something coming that's going to be beyond anything I can dream of. Even in the depths of despair, I felt that place of well-being inside of me. Even in my darkest hour, I knew that giving up wasn't the answer. There's something to be said for that. The countless people that end their own lives feeling hopeless, and to be able to give them hope, it's such a, Sid talked about, I can't remember the exact wording, but Sydney Banks talked about this being the most wonderful way of, I don't know if he said making a living or something like that, but he said by walking around or walking up to somebody, tapping them on the shoulder gently and waking them up. When I heard him say that, I was like, wow. I mean, that is just, I can't imagine anything better than that. It's so wonderful. And another thing that's actually changed is judgment of anything has, for the most part, gone away when I'm not caught up in, thinking. Even talking to somebody who's actively using and has all the excuses in the world about, how the world's doing them wrong and everybody hates them and everybody's against them and all that stuff. I've been there. I don't have to be there anymore. I never have to be there again. And neither does anybody else. Nobody has to feel that. There's a song I like, and there's a verse in there. It says, we're all in this thing together, walking the line between faith and fear. And that's just so true. We are in this together. We're all one. And I had a really big spiritual experience back in 2012 where the physical world actually just disappeared, and I saw the energy of life. The big thing I noticed was that there was no difference between the energy of me and the people around me and the chairs and the floor and even the air in between us, except that the energy seemed to vibrate at a different frequency. We're pretty far apart. We can still connect because there is no separation. That feeling of separation only comes from the story that we create. And it's not our fault. There's an innocence to it. We're kind of taught that growing up. That's my toy. Mine, mine, mine. And then it's my car, and then my house, and then, my job, and my wife, and my kids. There's this kind of separation. It's not all of us. It's just me. It's my family group. It's my friends, and then there's everybody else. And I was always terrible at social interactions. I felt so disconnected. But now it's like I I keep meeting all these new people just about every day and making deep connections with them. And I'm even becoming civically active, and I'm joining, groups that interest me in the area and meeting new people that way too, and networking and connecting with all these people. And this past New Year's Eve, I got to spend it with probably 150 or 200 people that were all of the same kind of mind frame of just, love and compassion for everybody. And it was the most amazing New Year's I've ever had. It beat all the ones that I, got drunk or high for or whatever that I thought I was having fun. It beat all of those hands down. I mean, no comparison. It was just such a beautiful experience. And most of the group are really phenomenal musicians, and got to hear great music all night, and just hang out and talk with people. All these giving, loving people. And I didn't think they existed. For so many years, I didn't think people like that actually existed. And now I'm right in the middle of the group of them. I mean, it's such an amazing thing. And I go see them once a month for a big music jam that they throw. And, and I've gained some really good friendships through that. People that I talk to almost daily. And even though I've only known them for, a year or so, it feels like I've known them my entire life. These just genuine people that love connecting with other people. And it's not just for me. It's like tuning forks. When you get, two tuning forks for the same frequency, you tap one of them and get it going, it'll make the other one vibrate. Key to this thing, Sid wasn't big on techniques. I mean, he liked things like meditation and hobbies and things that help kind of slow down your thinking. Anything that slows down your thinking that doesn't have negative side effects is a good thing. But, sharing this with other people is really just about being present. It's about holding that space inside of me that I know exists in them, because we are one. There is no separation. There's no real difference between us except for personalities and experiences. Other than that, we all work the same way. We all create our experience by how we think about things. Our feelings are like a barometer for our thinking. They're directly tied to our thinking. It's not one comes after the other. So what we're feeling just lets us know how we've been thinking. And that helps me out tremendously. Because if I start feeling a little off, I know that my thinking has been getting off. And that's when I'll take a break from work or, whatever I'm doing, I'll take a break and just spend a little quiet time. And let that thinking settle down. And the feeling I didn't like goes away. No drugs required. It really simplifies life beyond anything I could have imagined. It's made everything so much better. And it doesn't mean things don't happen. Sydney Banks talked about is that life is a contact sport too. And I heard that, I'm like, yeah, I guess it is. I mean, we're all kind of playing a game here. We have different roles. We have different, things that we do to be part of the game, but we're all in it together.